Star Trek DAC. You know what that stands for, right? Donuts and coffee. Never go into space combat on an empty stomach without a good healthy dose of caffeine. That's what they're saying. I wasn't sure what to make of this game after I first heard about it because the title doesn't say much other than Star Trek DAC, and unless you're in the know, you don't really know what it means. When I started playing it, I was disappointed that it didn't have much to do with Star Trek. On the other hand, it reminded me of a souped-up version of Asteroids, which means that I do enjoy this game. Quite a bit. Actually, it's very addictive and a lot of fun. Just don't expect much about Star Trek. And maybe that's a good thing. The Star Trek franchise is not known for having excellent video games. This one is far better than most of the other Star Trek titles out there that I've played, by a wide margin. Maybe because they skip over the encyclopedic volume of data, no pun intended, that Star Trek has come up with and created over the past several decades, and get right to the point: spaceships blowing up things in space. It's a surprisingly simple, straightforward game given the size of the franchise. And coming from a Trekkie like me, that's a compliment, because frankly, it's just impossible to make Trekkies happy unless you just re-release Star Trek II over and over and over again. Which I wish they would do. KAHN? Beep, beep, beep. I wish they would have put a reverse sound on the Enterprise. At times it feels like you're driving a truck in outer space, or a Winnebago. Actually, that's not really the Enterprise. That's a flagship vessel. I don't think it's the Enterprise. In my mind, it could be. Whatever. Who cares? You pick one of 3 classes of spaceships and fight in one of 3 different styles of game. Games, plural. You can fly as a flagship, bomber, or fighter in deathmatch, assault, or conquest. Some may argue that's what the DAC really stands for. That's debatable. I think it's sheer coincidence. It seems as though it was designed for Xbox Live Arcade multiplayer primarily, but it's a lot of fun also playing in a single-player mode, where you have computer opponents and fight against other computer opponents, like V'ger, if V'ger was in the game, which he's not. It's not really a he either. And anyway, moving on. I played online late on a Saturday night and found that there were a lot of people playing this game. They seemed to be jumping in and out of games rapidly, though. I found gameplay to be more fun and focused just playing in a single-player mode. And the achievements in this game are actually fun to go for. They seem reasonable. Each of the spaceships has very different handling characteristics and firepower. The flagship is the most difficult to control and operate. The bomber is neat because it deploys mines behind your bomber, and pretty much anything behind you is destroyed. It's great for defensive work in the conquest and assault modes, and the fighter is the smallest, fastest, most maneuverable, and is quite powerful once you get that thing maxed out. The blue power-ups you see laying around the screen increase your weapon and shield strength. There's an indicator at the bottom middle of the screen that shows you your overall strength. And then the yellow ones give you special weapons like shields, cloak. You have a wingman, which effectively doubles your firepower. And that's a really good one to have. When your ship is destroyed, you can eject and then it respawns you faster. It's a nice, simple game. It's not weighted down with the whole Star Trek series. And the release coincides with the new Star Trek film. But I'm glad that they chose a straightforward arcade style for the game. It's a lot of fun. As you see on screen, it's a nice looking game. These space combat kind of games always look very cool in HD. The music isn't terribly exciting, but the explosions and gunfire sound awesome. The low frequencies are used very well for the explosions, so if you have a subwoofer, you'll give it some use with this game. If you're looking for a fun arcade-style Asteroids meets deathmatch kind of game with multiplayer, Star Trek DAC is definitely a cool game to look at. While the general population games on multiplayer seemed a bit annoying with people jumping in and out, if you have friends playing the game, you can create your own match. And the single player was a lot of fun as well. It's very straightforward, the controls are fairly easy to figure out, and it doesn't cost all that much. And that's Star Trek to the DAC. If I had a replicator, I'd be having some donuts with my coffee right now. Preferably glazed ones with sprinkles.